It looked like it did the job, but typically bears don't just go down like that. So you see he's not tilting up with the bow to give it an arc on the flight. He's shooting pretty straight at it. I would not shoot dynamite anywhere near me. It is going to go into full panic mode. All these nasty chemicals are gonna start going all over the body, getting into the blood, and that is going to taste so bad. My name's Alexandra Eisner. I am an archery professional, meaning that I am the manager of an archery shop and range where I am also a certified bow technician. I fix bows, build bows, arrows. I've taught over 400 people, and I have made an archery coloring book called I'd Rather Be Drawing. I don't play video games, and I'm not quite sure what to expect, whether it's like a Wonder Woman, Assassin's Creed kind of thing where they're jumping off of buildings in that case, whether it's hunting, target shooting, just stalking your prey. I'm familiar with all of those things and just ready for whatever comes. All right, so now we're gonna be hunting a black bear. First off, this bow better be pulling at least 70 pounds of pressure, especially since it's a long bow and it's not gonna have a lot of speed in the arrow, about 100 feet per second. This person needs to be pulling at least 70 pounds, if not 100 right now, to take down that bear. If he's using some binos, that means the bear is at least probably 40, 50 yards away. Based on that distance, if he's actually going to take it right now, that bow better weigh at least 100 pounds of pressure. It is a smaller longbow from tip to tip, it looks like, than a modern English longbow. And the smaller the bow, like shorter the bow, the faster and kind of snappier it's going to be. So he could get away with it a little bit better because it's a shorter bow with that. He's now not going to take the shot at that distance. He's actually crawling up closer. So now he's stalking his prey. And that is accurate. You would get down on one knee. I would recommend to archers to actually put your front knee on the ground though, and not have your front knee close to the bow, because these bows can break, and they do break. I would just reposition himself to have his front knee down, his back knee up, and in my perspective, that makes you actually more stable because now you're opened up to your shot rather than closed off and having to kind of curve over your shoulder to your target. And he is using a glove not just in the front but in the back. So that would be accurate too, because let's say 100 pounds, you would have to have a glove on that pulling hand. If you're gonna be hunting and probably taking a lot of shots with that, that string's gonna really go deep into your fingers. So that's accurate. You would wanna have a glove, and it looked like a pretty hardy leather glove. So that's what you would want. So he came up to that target, so we're not at the 50 yards anymore. It's probably about 20 yards, maybe even 15, and the bear is broadside right now, which is what you would want. You would want to either be completely broadside, the bear's not hiding behind a tree or anything like that. He can fully see his shot, he can fully see the background behind him, so that is a safe shot. You would either shoot the bear broadside or standing completely straight up. It looked like it did the job, but typically bears don't just go down like that. Typically you hit them and they get really excited in a very agitated, obviously way, and they will kind of book it and run. And that's when a lot of hunters get the most injuries, is not because a bear's like actually attacking them, but it's because they shot the bear and the bear freaks out and literally tramples over them as it's collapsing. All right, wow, now it's snow. So that tells me, for one, that the air is thinner. So when the air is thinner, you're gonna have faster shots. So I hope that he's compensating for that, because down below where there was no snow, he's in higher altitude now, he actually had to compensate and shoot higher for his shots. He is taking his time. He is not running up to the target. He's hiding behind a tree. So that's exactly what you would want. He's closer to this animal now. He's pulling the bow straight back. His elbow's coming straight back, which is exactly what you would want. He's holding it at his cheek right now, which is exactly what you would want. That's your anchor point. So he's pulling it back to the same spot every time, or he should be, to get that same consistent pressure. Now he's following his shot or his harvest. He's taking it down. So his elbow is tweaked out a little bit. So when your elbow's tweaked out a little bit, that means that he's mainly using his biceps and his tricep muscles, which you would want to actually use more of your shoulder and your back, especially when we know that he has to be shooting a very high poundage. And he's running up to his harvest. Good. So he's checking on his animal. Awesome. So it looks like he maybe shot the animal 2 times max, which is good. That would make me feel comfortable to say he is an avid hunter. He knows what he's doing. He's a smart harvester, and he's an ethical hunter. Ethical hunting, you want to take down that animal, no matter what animal it is, as soon as possible. If you have to shoot it more than twice, that's not ethical. That's not a good name for hunting. And obviously, the less shots that go into the animal, the more meat you get. And you want to also shoot the animal and get it down as fast as possible so the cortisol, the stress hormones in the animal, don't release. If this animal knows that it is being hunted and it knows that it is dying and it sees someone approaching it, it is going to go into full panic mode. All these nasty chemicals are going to start going all over the body, getting into the blood, into the muscles, and that is going to taste so bad. And he approached the animal once it was down. You do not approach an animal if it is still alive. Even if it's still breathing a little bit, you let it pass in peace so that the meat and the harvest is not ruined by those cortisol hormones. If you're on horseback, it would be harder, but you have a little bit of advantage because you're already probably higher up than these animals and you don't have to compensate for the arc or the range. So you could most likely shoot more straight at the animal since you're facing down. If he's using a bow on a horse, I would say it's probably either a lower poundage bow or they could be now using a horse bow. With shooting on a horse, you would want to use a horse bow because it's actually shorter and the bow itself is a little bit wider in the middle so that you're meant to pull it back farther than you would a long bow so that you get that momentum back in your shot. He's already on the better side being up top of the animals. However, obviously the animals are more likely to see him, hear him, smell all of this. So that's not exactly stalking. It sounds like he's probably just maybe going out there for a rushed hunt or even for kind of fun right now. If he was taking down larger game, you would want a horse or something nearby so that you can have the horse carry that meat out. If you leave your harvest there and you don't take it, see, he's taking it back and he's loading it up on the horse. So that's perfect, because if you leave a harvest behind, or if you take part of the harvest and you have to come back due to the weight of it, another hunter could come up and take your hunt. Another animal could come up and swoop in on the harvest too.
You ready, boy?
So based on him just putting that rabbit or that animal right on his horse, I think that's what he was going for. He's going through a quick hunting spree right now. It's obviously winter. Maybe he's trying to harvest a bunch to collect them for the winter time. And that's probably why he brought a horse, is so that he can capture more animals and he doesn't have to carry all of that weight back. Okay, So he's coming up on the animal. He's super close. So that's what you would need. You need to get very close to those kinds of animals who have the hardy skin, who have the long, really tough fur. But you can still get these animals in one shot, and that still should be everybody's goal. Okay, so now he just killed it with a pistol, and it's probably because it's such a hardy animal. So he took it down with one arrow, he followed it along, he tracked it, which is perfect. However, you know, the cortisol, it obviously knew that it was being hunted, so the harvest might not be as good. However, that's kind of what you may have to do with those larger animals with thicker skin and thicker fur. So we're outside, we're using another long bow. And you could put the longbow over your shoulder like that, so that would be accurate. You would want to put the string over you in front, so again, that part is accurate as well. He was shooting it pretty close and now running around with it. You could do that. Those bows are very, very light, so you can run around with them very easily. They weigh maybe a pound. He's shooting very close to that target. I'm not sure what he's practicing for. If you're practicing for hunting game, you're pretty much never gonna get that close to the target. When you're running through the forest, one, you're making a lot of noise, and especially with this longbow that's 77 inches long, you're big and you're flailing all around, so you're more likely to be seen by the animal, heard by the animal, and also the smell. The more you run, the more you move, the more you kind of pull the arrow back, you're gonna smell, and that animal is gonna sense all of these things and would be so far away from him by the time he got close up, like where these targets are. So this is for defense on his own, going through a village with like his army and taking down people. This is not for hunting practice right now. In archery competitions, there's actually no running at all. There's no running, stalking, jumping. It doesn't matter if it's a national archery tournament and you're shooting at paper or an actual 3D type of hunting practice per se event. Oh, so now we're in a bar. Okay. I don't know if you'd ever want to set off dynamite inside a place where you are. I see the purpose is destruction, and that would be the only thing for dynamite. And notice how all of these things are hitting the floor. That is the purpose. He's not necessarily looking or shooting at one very specific target. It's a general door, it's a general floor around the tables, and that's pretty much the most accurate you could be. He's also in a space where he's only shooting maybe 5 to 20 yards max, and that's about how far of a flight you can get, especially when he's angling the bow barely at all. So you see he's not tilting up with the bow to give it an arc on the flight. He's shooting pretty straight at it. So shooting straight at something with a heavy point like that, you would need to be very close. So in a way, that is accurate. However, I would not shoot dynamite anywhere near me. Oh, and now he has a glove. Now he's wearing a glove on the shooting hand. As I mentioned before, you would want that glove because otherwise when you're shooting off of your hand with one wooden arrows, you can get stuck with splinters. He was just shooting a little bit farther. It looked like he was probably shooting 25 to 30 yards, so he tilted the bow up right there to get that arc to make that shot. So that's also accurate. I thought it was pretty accurate, actually. It would be pretty accurate. The bows looked accurate between the length of the bows versus the brace height and the width. The fletchings are perfect on that arrow, too. The different broadheads they used for the different purposes were correct. The different ways that in the distance shots that they raised the bow up to get more of the arc versus when they were closer to either when they were inside in the bar or with the smaller animals, so they angled it down because they don't need the farther shots. That was accurate. So I would say that game is pretty accurate, and I understand that these hunters need to gather a little bit faster, so that's maybe, you could say, why they weren't stalking it quite as stealth Lee, that would be my only takeaway, and that's the non-accurate part. For more Gamology videos, head over to Facebook and YouTube. For more experts react, subscribe to Gamology. Very massive broadheads. I've seen broadheads that are about 4 inches long, and they have massive spikes around them, but that's typically the older style. Okay.